Thank you, Rose. A tremendous lead-in. I don't consider it any coincidence that the song that we sang tonight was talking about listening to the divine voice within. Very, very important. So thank everybody for coming out tonight. The topic of my teaching is Whispers on the Air. I had thought about that title for a while, and as I develop my talk, you'll understand why I gave it that title. But I'm going to take a look or show you a prop here tonight to emphasize on something. This is a radio. And we want to talk about this radio tuning in to what Rose had adequately described as a message from the universe. This radio can pick up so many different frequencies. And in the topics that are surrounding the movements of today, we're constantly referencing the term ascension. Well, if this radio is on a path to ascension, does it accelerate its path if that antenna goes a little higher and it picks up more frequencies? Or maybe even higher and it does a better job picking up on the message of the universe? Or maybe I should help it and lift it and maybe it'll ascend? The answer is no. The internal components of the radio have to change. Back when I was a teenager, we had CB radios. I had my Cobra CB radio in my four-wheel drive truck, and I had a Dragon antenna. And I had a friend that piped through on one of my channels, and he was talking to me from Alabama. And I said, "Jeff, how do you do that when I'm in Michigan?" He says, "I have these high-powered crystals that I put in my CB radio that up the power and that up the frequency." The process of ascension has to do with what is happening inside us. We go within. We work on making contact with the Almighty within us. We work on making contact within Him we live and move and have our being, the universe. We go within and we learn to listen within. And as the internal components of the radio are upgraded, we work on upgrading our connection. And when we ascend from within, then the outer ascends. Now, I had come up, let me get back on the speaker here. Let's go back in time to some of the tremendous things that our technology has gone through in the last 40 or 50 years. Okay? Before I do that, I want to tell you that one of the things that inspired me to give this talk was a visitation that I had from one of God's creatures about a year ago. And it was in the summer of last year, roughly around June. And I was resting in my master bedroom with the window open, and I felt this communication come on me. It was very warm, and the message was very caring. And as I laid in my bed and I tried to tune into where this communication was coming from, I saw this image of wings and antennae, plural. So I said, "Well, isn't this something?" Well, I walked outside the backside of my apartment, and on the top of the rail was a 5-inch long praying mantis. And I said, "Now, isn't that something?" I looked around for any other praying mantises, and there were no other praying mantises. So what did I do after that? Well, I just stood there and I said, I wonder if I have some type of special communication going on. Well, the praying mantis didn't leave. So I was a little bit stunned. I went back inside, kind of did the Tasmanian devil thing and twisted around, stopped, and wondered, wow, what's going on with me? And as soon as I got still, I said, well, I need to lay down and find out if that praying mantis is going to stay. So I calmed down. Sure enough, I felt that communication again. I went back outside. She was still there. So I reached my finger out on top of the railing behind my apartment, and I went to touch the praying mantis, and she reached out and put her arm right on my finger. And I said, holy smokes. Went back inside, did the Tasmanian devil thing. Looked for my praying mantis, how to become a horse whisperer or a mantis whisperer book. Couldn't find the mantis whisperer book. I was looking for praying mantis body language cues. Couldn't find any. But I knew I had some type of communication going on. It wasn't exactly new for me because I grew up under my grandfather, who has a lot of Odawa Indian blood, and he had taught me a lot of things from 4 years old on up, and he was always teaching me to stay in touch with the animals that came to our place. And I mean, our population in our town, little town of Pentwater, Michigan, was under 3,000. So we had a lot of time to go out into the woods and get tuned in, and that helped me. But, you know, the messaging is that there was a communication going on. And how do you properly interpret this communication? I didn't invite the praying mantis to come visit. The praying mantis came on her own, and then the praying mantis made this connection, if you wish to believe it. And other animals will come and they'll try to make a connection. And if you're ready, you might just get still and listen. And boy, will you learn something. You see, they have their own elders. They have their own tribes. They have their own governing bodies. All of the different animals in the kingdom. And you know, when Adam was mentioned in the book of Genesis, we see the Almighty bringing the animals to him, and he names each and every one of them. Not only is that a spectacular thing that the animals would come up to him, but that he would have the memory to remember their names. There's quite a few different animals. So we have evidence that there is animal-human communication all the way back to the book of Genesis. We have other examples throughout the scriptures too. But one thing that I think helped me with my communication was the over 32 sweat lodge ceremonies that I had with my Native American friends in the Inipi sweat lodge ceremony. Because incredible things happen when you're in there and when you begin to tune in. And we have a lot to thank our Native American friends for, because from the beginning they've been trying to tell us to stay in touch with the natural. They have been trying to tell us that Mother Earth is a living being and that we have to honor her. They have been trying to tell us that we only take what we need and then give back. They have been trying to tell us to preserve nature and respect it, and it will respect you. These are true teachings. So it comes to me that there are not only whispers on the air from our fellow animal friends that have been on this planet actually longer than we have. They arrived in the book of Genesis before we did. So they have something to say. Well, are we willing to listen? I think we're at the point where we're opening up and we're willing to learn something. Now, you might take this example of what occurred 40 or 50 years ago, where we had a cord attached to a wall and we had to run throughout several rooms in the house to get to the phone. And when we got on the phone, there was somebody on the other end, and we made communication. When we were done with communication, we hung up. So I'm going to look at some of these things from the Indian view, and I'm going to go back maybe 200 years and then come forward. So from an Indian's view, let's say 200 years ago, looking into the future, he's going to say, oh, the white man grabbed for this box, and there was a rope onto the teepee wall, and as he grabbed the box, there was a little man inside. Couldn't understand what was happening. Well, as time went on, the little box that the white man worked with developed to the point it didn't have a rope that didn't connect to the wall, and therefore the white man could walk outside his teepee and move around with this box, and whenever he put it to his ear, he could hear the little man inside talking again. Well, as time went on further, as technology developed, then the white man had one of these flat boxes, and he didn't just grab it and move around with it in its portable sense. It had symbols on it, and one of the symbols on it was a rainbow moon. The white man called that chrome. And as he touched the rainbow moon on the flat face of the phone, he got picture people talking back to him. I don't understand the white man's ways on how so many people in the picture can talk back to the white man, and how they got so small as to fit in there. The white man called that YouTube. But as time went on, we went from going to the wall that was corded to the portable to the flat phone, until the white man got so comfortable that the phone came closer and closer and closer until it became part of him. And then the time arrived where the white man said, this phone's got to be part of me. And so he put it in the form of a small wood chip and placed it in his body. Then the sky people came. The sky people came, and there were dirt flecks in the sky, and they fell down upon the white man's house. And the white man breathed the air in, and he learned that these dirt flecks were nanobots. And the nanobots began to infest within his system. And as time went on, the white man became acclimated to this technology that he was developing. He spent less time listening to the creatures that Wakantanka, the great mystery, had given him on this great, beautiful planet. And the more he got involved with the technology, the less he listened with his heart. And so the animals didn't come to visit anymore. As the white man became a cyborg, he was no longer human. He was half machine. And the white man said, we have a better way. And today we have Sophia. And she's a robot who is an artificial intelligence portable computer system. And she can tie directly by 5G or 4G communications to the main data frame. And there's nothing she can't process. And now she's become an official citizen, I believe, of Saudi Arabia. And all they have to do is move Sophia around and ask her questions, and you wonder how long it's going to be before Sophia has legs and can move on her own. We don't always see the signs that are coming. The animal kingdom does. Watch how they move before the storms arrive. Watch how they move before the seasons change. They are in touch with the natural. We are rapidly losing touch with the natural. The natural didn't come about in the last 40 years. This type of technology did. The natural has been around for thousands of years. And it's only taken us maybe 40 or 50 to work very hard at detaching from it. And that's our mistake. But we can correct it if we learn to listen from our hearts, if we learn to meditate from our centers. Now, if we are going to look at the type of communication that may be occurring as we go from third dimension to fourth dimension and fifth dimension, do we actually have to leave this radio box? Does the radio box have to disappear? The answer is no. Each of us were given the divine spark. Each of us were given the divine qualities to communicate with the Almighty. With that same gift, we communicate with the beings that He created. and we learn to establish harmony. We learn to get balance back with our Native American brothers and sisters, with the rainbow tribes around the world, with our animal friends that are falling away rapidly. And we learn to respect the fact that the Almighty has a divine order on this beautiful planet, and He's trying to tell us there are a few things we can do to help this divine order maintain its balance. So, when we get to the point of understanding that all the way through the teachings around the planet, all the way through the different religions, all the way through the different gurus and the different priests and the different medicine men, we're always coming back to the inner journey and how you become a better person by either education, meditation, proper teaching, having a fantastic mentor. But ultimately, it's your individual choice to take on the ascension path by whatever means, and that only occurs from the inside out. The way has always been within. Greater is He who is in you than he who is in the world. I tell people, did you know Jesus had a tribe? He was a member of a tribe. Yeah, it was a tribe of Judah. I say, do you know in the Hebrew the name for father and mother is Abba and Ima? Did you know in the Lakota it's Ata and Ina? And that is so similar that if you can't figure out there's a connection, take a look at the rest of the words in the Lakota Sioux language and see the similarity. Maybe the Lakota are from Manasseh and Ephraim. That's a tremendous study on its own. But we have a people that have been living on the planet who have been reminding us that we need to respect God's creatures, and we need to respect the divine order that He has on our planet. And to do that, we want to be still and know that I am God, and we want to open up our hearts to receive the type of communication that's available now. And there are a lot of people receiving these forms of communication, and I believe that God's creatures are literally reaching out to establish this communication, to let us know that they're part of this plan, they're part of this ascension, they're part of this awakening. They have to be. This is their planet also. Now, mankind may get to the point where he says continually, I can do it better, I can do it better, but then he doesn't necessarily have the morality to reach the heights where he can say no to the technology when it becomes destructive. So, in the past, when you study ancient civilizations, you know that man's morality didn't always rise to meet up with the technology. The technology took over, and that's where you had the problems, when man got out of touch and technology took over. We have to stop that from happening. We have right now the Hadron Accelerator. And the Hadron Accelerator's duty, one of its jobs, is to punch a hole in time and space and move this planet through that hole. Why would you want to do that? Perhaps because you don't want this planet to ascend. And you think you've got a better plan. Well, I would tell those people, beware. Beware, because there is nothing that escapes the all-seeing eye of the Almighty. Let's take an example. Let's go to a simple biblical example. Let's go to Exodus chapter 8. We had an ancient civilization that was very, very advanced, known as Egypt. We still don't fully know how the pyramids were constructed. There may have been very, very advanced levitation machines. There may have been star people. There may have been starships. There may have been all kinds of things, but we know that Egypt was a very, very advanced civilization. However, we also know this, that when it came time for the Israelites to be freed from 400 years of bondage, and Moses walked into Egypt and gave the command that he was directed to give, which is, let my people go, Did we then see Babylon 5 starship show up in the sky and give Pharaoh a warning? Did we see military drones shoot down photon lasers? Did we see the TR-3B that our United States Air Force has? A triangular wing craft 600 feet on each side that does have a photon laser system show up and tell Pharaoh, let those people go? No. We didn't have that happen. We had this happen in chapter 8, verse 3 of the book of Exodus. And the river shall bring forth frogs abundantly, which shall go up and come into thine house, and into thy bedchamber, and upon thy bed, and into the house of thy servants, and upon thy people, and into thine ovens, and into thy kneading troughs. And the frogs shall come up both on thee, and upon thy people, and upon all thy servants. And the Lord spake unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch forth thine hand with thy rod over the streams, over the rivers, and over the ponds, and cause frogs to come up upon the land of Egypt. And they did. And if that wasn't enough, and it wasn't, what did he do next? And the Lord said unto Moses, say unto Aaron, stretch out thy rod, and smite the dust of the land, that it may become lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And they did so. For Aaron stretched out his hand with his rod, and smote the dust of the earth, and it became lice in man and in beast. All the dust of the land became lice throughout all the land of Egypt. And the magicians did so with their enchantments to bring forth lice, but they could not. So there were lice upon man and beast. Then the magicians said unto Pharaoh, this is the finger of God. And Pharaoh's heart was hardened, and he hearkened not unto them, as the Lord had said. And then we had further miracles occur until Pharaoh finally decided to release the Israelites. We didn't have advanced technology used by the Almighty. We had his divine little creatures that did the job. And I have a feeling that they may be called upon to do the job once again, because we don't want cyborgs to take over this planet. God has a plan, and he reigns supreme, and he looks over the affairs of men. So I ask all of you, when you're out walking in the woods, or you're spending time in meditation, open your hearts and listen to God's creatures. They're here for a reason, and they'll do his work. I hope I'll do his work. And so I surrender to his guidance, and I ask everyone here to also surrender. Thank you for your time.